everyone. Lorrie here. Welcome to my world. I'm really glad that you have stopped by. This is going to be my final video for Survival Seeds 2024, hosted by the fabulous Vineyard Chicks, Lazy Days Ahead with Jesse and Lisa, and Bushcraft Family. And I know that you've been watching Survival Seeds all along, so I'm not going to explain all of the whole thing on Survival Seeds to you at this point, because you've already heard it. I'm just going to kind of wrap up and let you know how my season went. So the girls, the ladies, the lovely ladies, have a list of questions that they would like us to answer. So I'm kind of going to answer those for each of the different seeds that we got. Now, as you know, we all got 6 seeds, or 6 seeds. We got more than 6 seeds, but 6 different types of seeds, and everybody grew them. Everybody grew everything. So for myself, we had the Detroit Red Beets, and I put those out, and they sprouted, and then about 2 days later, they were just gone. I have no idea where they went or what happened to them, but they were just gone. So I did not have any luck with them at all. The Walla Walla onions, they all sprouted, and I did harvest a few of those. I think the biggest one was, I don't know, about that big around. So again, I didn't do what I needed to do with the onions, but something that I learned about onions this year is that I need to start giving them their own space. So in the past, I've just kind of shoved them in here and there and everywhere, and it makes it hard to feed them like that because sometimes I don't want the other stuff that's around them having more nitrogen. And onions, of course, love nitrogen, and so you have to keep them fed with nitrogen consistently, or they don't bulb up. And so I think that's largely part of my problem with growing onions. So for next year, I am going to dedicate a spot in my garden for onions. Now, I did actually leave 2 or 3 of my Walla Wallas in over the winter. Or, well, it's not. I mean, winter is just coming, right? It's not, but I'm leaving them out there, and they're going to sit over winter, and then that means that next year I will get Walla Walla onion seeds from them, because onions are I think it's called a biannual, and they produce seeds their second year. So by leaving them out over the winter, they will go dormant for a little bit, and then they'll come back in the spring, and eventually they will flower, and I will have more onion seeds. So that's fabulous. Squash. Now, I learned a lot about squash this year, mostly about how to eat it, because I don't like the taste of squash. So I had a lot of people telling me, just put brown sugar on it, but that's not enough because it doesn't hide that squash taste. I did finally find a way to eat squash, so that made me happy. But this is my squash. This is my squash that I got. Let me show you a quick video. Well, I did finally get a couple of squash on here. There's one down there. There's another one there. I think there's another one just at the end of this plant here. So you can see that I do have some other squash on the vine just waiting for me to harvest it. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I have enough time left before frost for them to get ripe. They're still really, really green. Now this one did get ripe. And I know I talked about just saving it for prosperity because it was so adorable. But I think I might even actually cut this one open and see if it has any seeds, because it is mature. The other ones are not mature. So if they don't mature, they're not going to produce seeds. But this one definitely matured all the way. I mean, it changed color and everything. It just didn't grow. I think now I hear that other people with their butternut squash had the same thing and they ended up with some of these little squash. Now, the reason I thought that it did this was I let it flower and fruit before I took it out of its starting pot and put it in the ground. And I should not have because the pot was just a little 4-inch pot and it certainly didn't have enough room to put roots down and make a decent sized squash. But it did give me this little miniature one, which I left on the vine. I put it in the ground and I left it on the vine, hoping that it would get bigger. And it never did. It just ripened and you tell when squash and pumpkins and melons and all that, you can tell when they're ready because the little tendrils that are off the stem will dry out. And this one was dried out and as mature as it was going to get when I harvested it. Anyway, so that's what I've learned about squash. I don't know. I might, like I said, I might cut this open and harvest the seeds, and we'll see. We'll see if I grow it again. I don't know if I will because squash is not a favorite food, and it takes up so much room in my garden when I could be growing things that I actually do like. So anyway, next, tomatoes. My Mariana tomatoes did wonderfully. Now, I didn't learn much about tomatoes this year because they were one of the first things that I ever grew. And so I have kind of studied up on them in the past. I did like the Mariana tomatoes, but I'm not saving any seeds because they weren't my favorite. I found the flavor compared to my Scotia tomatoes a little bit bland. Um, and I also found my Scotia tomatoes to be more meaty. So I'm going to stick with the Scotias and probably not bother with the Marianas again. So I didn't save any seeds from them. They grew nicely and they made delicious salsa. I still have a couple of bags in the freezer that I'm going to make some more tomato sauce with and stuff. And so they're a great tomato, but I have limited space in my garden and I need to like limit myself to 1 or 2 tomato plants. So maybe like one cherry and one big one. So that, so I'm trying to limit uh, my tomatoes to tomatoes that I really, really like. Like I also grew some brandywine tomatoes this year, and I didn't care for them either. They had weird, odd shapes. They get holes in odd spaces, and I know people say, "Oh, that's just how heirloom tomatoes grow," and I don't care. I don't like it. So I probably won't be growing those again next year either. But anyway, moving on. Peppers. We grew pepperoncinis this year. Mine did quite well. I only grew 2 plants. So I didn't get enough to like do canned pickled pepperoncini or anything like that. But I did use them in my salsas and they added delicious flavor. And so I just absolutely loved that. Whether I'll grow them or not, I did save seeds. Peppers are like the easiest thing in the world to save seeds from. If you ever cut open a pepper from the store, you have had pepper seeds. Just gotta let them dry and they're good to go. What did I learn about peppers this year? I don't know that I learned anything that I didn't already know about them. I start them early. I start them in like February, so they're nice, big sized and ready to start flowering and fruiting as soon as I put them outside. So that's a plus. But I know not everybody can start their seeds inside in January and have room for them to go until May. Luckily, I have a spot, and then with the greenhouse, the little tiny greenhouse, I was able to put them out in that too before I could plant them outside, and they were still fine. So anyway, that's what I know about peppers. Finally, we get to the kidney beans. Now, I planted 6 kidney beans, and I got this half jar of beans back. Now, obviously, you can see that I saved all the seeds, and this is probably enough to make a batch of chili, maybe. So, I don't know whether I'll grow them again or not. Um, I also grew a bunch of green beans, and I love growing them and canning green beans. I just actually canned my first green beans this year, and they're so delicious from the garden when you can them yourself. And I would like to be able to do that again because we do eat a lot of green beans around here. Um, we don't necessarily eat a lot of kidney beans. I mean, I might make chili once or twice a year, if that, but there are other types of beans that we will eat more of. So I'm thinking that next year what I might do is try and push for 2 batches of beans and plant one as early as I can and harvest that to do the green beans, and then throw in another variety that I can just leave to dry. Right? So that might be where I grow kidney beans, or I might do like little white beans or black beans instead, because I do use those a whole lot more than I use kidney beans. Beans are an important staple to be growing if you can grow anything at all. But if you've seen my garden, you know that it's pretty small and I don't have a ton of room to grow. I mean, you have to grow a lot of bean plants to get enough to actually can with them. At least that's what I found. Now, so the herbal side of things, I did get seeds from bushcraft. I got hyssop seeds, but they were all smashed, and they did not do anything for me at all. Now I do have, for next year, I have purchased some hyssop seeds and some feverfew seeds, so I'll have those. But the other two, I had some lemon balm seeds, so I was able to plant those this year, and I have oregano out in my perennial garden. My oregano went crazy this year. I don't know if you saw. I harvested it twice, and then let it go to flower the third time it grew up. But it's huge. It's huge. I've got some oregano oil going. I use oregano to cook with. I throw it in teas. It's a fabulous herb, and it's very good for you. And then lemon balm, I also did lemon balm, and I actually had one that came out just outside this window here, just randomly popped up. I didn't plant it; it just came up. So I'm gonna take it. But I have that, and that's all good to go. I've been harvesting it, and I'll use it this year and next year in tea and all that kind of stuff. Um, so that's pretty much it. Now, what did I learn? I think I discussed what I learned. The seeds that I saved pepper seeds, kidney seeds, squash seeds, and I will be saving onion seeds next year from my Walla Wallas. I am quite happy with my harvest. For the things that grew, they did really well. And, even though my onions, because I had them scattered all over the place and didn't feed them properly, didn't grow as big as I would like them to have grown, they did still grow, and I was able to eat them, and they were delicious. So, what seeds would I add? Now, so that depends on what your situation is. Now, I finally own my own home, and we bought this place about 8 years ago. It's the first house I've ever owned. Um, but one of the things that I'm doing out in my garden for survival is I am adding some perennial plants. I have added walking onions, which are fabulous and reproduce themselves over and over and over again. So they're a mild onion, kind of like a shallot. You can use the greens for anything you would use green onion for, and they will keep growing forever if you let them. So that's something that I've added. I also added asparagus to my garden, and that gives me, it took a couple of years. I had to let it just grow for a couple of years before I could start harvesting it, but this was my first year harvesting the asparagus, and that was fabulous. I've also put in some berry trees. I put in some berry bushes, sorry, not trees. I have some blueberries and I have some raspberries And of course, I have my strawberry bed. And then I put my grapes in, and the grapes were the same thing. I had to wait. I had to let them grow for 2 or 3 years before I could harvest off of them. But this is my second year harvesting my grapes, and that's wonderful. So, if you can, I recommend throwing some perennials into your garden. I know a lot of you are a lot younger than I am, so I have to consider that I am getting older and gardening is getting harder. And, I do have the raised beds, which is fabulous. Um, but it gets harder every year to get out there and do what needs to be done. So, putting perennials in takes some of the work away from me, where I can concentrate my efforts on the things that I really want to grow, like tomatoes and peppers. Those things that only grow seasonally. The other thing that I've got perennial is all my herbs. Like, I'm in a zone 8B, but we do get snow and we do get frost. But most of my herbs, other than basil, will come back year after year. And actually, I grew holy basil last year, and it came back this year. I let it flower and let it go to seed and just left it. And this year, all those seeds sprouted up again. So I have got now, it's actually in with my asparagus bed. I've got all the holy basil in with the asparagus. So anyway, it's working. Celery is something that I would add as a seed, just because I use it so much. I use it all the time, and so if I can grow it myself, that means I'm not buying it. So celery is something that I would add. Mm, Anything else I would add? I'm not really sure of. I have to think about that. But like I said, perennials, throw in some perennials. 2 blueberry bushes. If you do blueberries, you got to have at least two. Strawberries, you only need one. It'll spread. Um, yeah, and you can have food year after year after year after year without having to plant. So that's a wonderful thing. Anyway, I guess that's about it for my wrap up for survival seeds. Sorry it's gone on so long. I hope you've stayed to the end. If you have, you can leave a comment, seeds 2025, down below, and that will enter you into a special draw on my seed giveaway on the 23rd of October. You can check out my channel for that. I'll leave a link somewhere for that, probably down below, whatever. I'll also leave links for the channels of the hosts. They're fabulous people. This has been an awesome collaboration. I've met so many new friends and had a lot of fun comparing gardens and learning from all of you. You've all been wonderful teachers and helping me to be a better gardener. So I appreciate that. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. Take good care of yourself. I will see you soon. Bye now.